Welcome to the Building Blocks of Safety podcast. We provide expert safety training that's rooted in biblical principles. I'm your host, Benjamin Risk, and thank you for tuning into episode 2 of this podcast. Okay, so in our last episode, we really discussed the importance of setting a firm foundation of situational awareness. From this moment forward, we're going to start talking about building from that foundation. What if I were to tell you that everything you need to know about safety is already on the inside of you? Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. I don't know the first thing about what to do in an emergency. Well, the reason that is because it looks like this. Everything's all jumbled. What is the first thing that I need to do? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove all the unnecessary blocks for right now and really just focus on the first thing we need to do during an emergency. So let me go ahead and remove these blocks. And we're going to focus on the very first thing to do in an act of emergency is block 1, which is called OODA loop. Now, OODA loop is used by a lot of first responders and military, and it stands for observe, orient, decide, act. Again, I'll say it again. It stands for observe, orient, decide, act. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and dig right into this. So we're going to talk about the first O in OODA loop, which is observing. So what observing stands for, what it means is to collect information about somebody. Imagine, let's use our imagination. We're walking in the door. We're seeing the front entrance to the church. We're seeing the windows. We're seeing the people that we care about. Well, then we take notice of somebody that feels suspicious to us. We can't really pinpoint why we feel this way about this person, but again, it's that hair in the back of our neck starts to stand up. I don't know why I feel this way about this person, but something about this person does not make me feel comfortable. So going back to observe, we're collecting information as to why it seems like this person is suspicious. So we're looking for certain key features, such as appearance or behavior. So we're going to go in and build from that. So appearance. Maybe that looks like, here in Texas, our summers can be really brutal. It can be about 100 degrees outside. Let's say somebody is wearing a trench coat inside our service when it's 100 degrees outside. Okay, that's definitely something to take into consideration as to why are they doing this in the first place? Why are they dressed like this? Now, it could be other factors. It's not saying that this is a guaranteed suspicious situation, but what are they doing dressed this way? They're dressed with clothing that does not match the weather outside. So the next thing we're going to do is the behavior. Okay, how are they acting while they're in this church service? How are they acting while they're in my place of business? Are they acting erratic? Are they cooperating with people? Are they participating in whatever activity is going on? Are they isolating themselves? Are they making a scene? What are they doing that's making them feel suspicious? So the next thing I'm going to talk about is orient. That's the next O in OODA loop. So orient means to analyze the information that you just collected and ask yourself, is this really a credible judgment? Going back to that church setting, the person wearing a trench coat when it's 100 degrees outside. Or what if they brought in a duffel bag to your place of worship or your place of business when there's really no need to bring anything like that in? Okay, what's in the duffel bag? Why are they wearing a trench coat? Is this really a reason for me to take steps forward into telling somebody about what's going on? Okay, so again, orient is analyzing the information that we just collected and seeing, is this truly a credible judgment? Now, this is where most people stop. especially when it comes to active emergencies. They get to the observe phase, they go into the orient phase of an active emergency, but then they don't realize that they need to jump forward into the next two action steps. So before we get there, let me go over something very quickly. So there are three response types that your brain has to an active emergency. There's a flight response, a fight response, and a freeze response. Okay, let me go over those again. Flight, fight, or freeze. Okay, I'm going to focus on those for a little bit. We're really going to break down each definition and see what they look like. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the flight response. It's running away from the danger. It's saying, okay, I observed, I oriented myself to the danger, but I'm getting the heck up out of here. I'm getting as far away from I can to the danger, okay? So it's removing yourself from the danger. Well, the problem with that is that if you remove yourself too much, then you get to where you're not part of the problem, which is good, but you're also not part of the answer, which is not good. So, next thing we're going to talk about is the fight response. This is somebody who charges head on to the danger, somebody who wants to be the answer to that problem. So, relatively, this could be good, but the problem with this is that if you're not properly trained, sometimes you can jump head on into a situation that you really don't want to be in. Meaning that you can become part of the problem without even trying. The next response I want to talk about is what the majority of people who aren't trained fall into. And this is called the freeze response. Okay, so freezing, let me give you an example of freezing. So let's say you have a computer or a phone, and if you have too many apps open on your phone or too many programs running at the same time on your computer, what do? It either freezes up your phone or it freezes up your computer. Well, the human brain is the same way. If you have too many emotions running at the same time, just like those blocks, and you don't know which one goes first and what to build off of, same thing as a computer. What does it do? Exactly. Your brain freezes. So a lot of people freeze in cases of emergencies because they don't know what to do first. And a big reason for that is the thought process of, I never thought it would happen here. And that's called complacency. That's something that we want to avoid. So we want to push out of that freeze response and get into how to properly utilize flight or fight responses, okay? So we're going to get right back into it. So again, we talked about observe, we talked about orienting ourselves to the situation. Okay, the next step is decide. Okay, now what this means is it's determining that you are going to make a decision. Okay, so observing, you're collecting the information, orienting, you're analyzing the information you just collected to see, is this credible? Well, then now you're deciding, okay, what do I do with the information that I just collected? Okay, so let's go back to that church setting. Okay, so we saw the person in the trench coat. We saw the person acting erratically. Okay, we decided, okay, this is a credible judgment to move forward. So we're going to decide to make a decision to tell somebody about this situation. Now, the important thing about this is to know who to tell at the right time. Okay? So you have to be careful with this because we're not inciting panic. Okay? Again, I'm training you in this to be prepared, not paranoid. Again, I'll say it again, be prepared, not paranoid. Okay? So we're not going to just tell anybody who walks in the door about what's going on. We're going to tell the proper people. So that means your usher team. That means maybe your greeters, maybe whoever's on the serve team, maybe a pastor. But we're going to tell somebody who can truly do something to overcome this situation, okay? We're not going to be afraid. We're not going to go into a freeze response, but we're going to notify the proper people so they can do something about this situation. So, okay, again, we talked about we're determining we are going to make a decision. Now, the last thing I want to discuss is to act. Okay, that's the A in OODA loop. It's to act. That means to follow through with the decision we just made with due diligence. Okay, so again, going back to the church setting. So we've determined all of these things that we are going to go tell somebody. Well, what do we need to do next? We need to tell somebody, okay? It's not enough just to decide that we are going to say something. We have to put action behind that decision. And again, that goes back to knowing who to tell at the proper time, okay? Because again, we're not going to be paranoid, but we are going to be prepared, okay? So again, I'm going to go over everything all as a whole, then we'll move forward from there. So observing is collecting information. Orienting is analyzing, is this information really credible? Deciding, we're going to determine that we are going to make a decision. And action is actually following through with due diligence. Okay, but the importance again is knowing what is the first step that I need to do in an emergency to keep me, to keep my family, to keep the people that I care about safe. There's actually a scripture that discusses the importance of knowing what to do at the right time. And that scripture is found in Psalm 91, 1 through 2. I'm going to read this for you. It says, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of you, Lord, He is my refuge, my fortress, my God. In Him will I trust." So the importance of this scripture is knowing where to put your trust. The word abide, if you look it up, it actually means to stay in a state of expectancy. Expect God to do great things in your life. Expect Jesus to really be your comforter in situations like this, okay? Because again, I'm not teaching you to be prepared. I'm not teaching you to be paranoid, but I'm teaching you to be prepared. And preparation comes from knowing who can hold your peace, who can hold your heart, and that's Jesus Christ. Thank you for tuning into this episode. Have a blessed day.